What up everyone, it's your man Xman87 here, bringing you another top 10 video, and what I have for you today are my top 10 favorite G.I. Joe Classified Series figures of 2023. Last year's G.I. Joe list was my most viewed top 10 video of 2022, so I had to do it again. Before we get into everything, if you could please leave a thumbs up, like rating on the video, it'll help show your support for my channel and I greatly appreciate it. Let's now go over some honorable mentions. Another crazy year with some hot releases. There were so many that I wanted to put on my top 10 list, but couldn't, so I'm going to give all those Joe figures some well-deserved recognition here. So in no particular order, we got Shockwave, Nunchuck, Torpedo, Rock and Roll, Shipwreck. This one hurts me because he's one of my favorites. General Hawk, Shooter, Snow Job, and lastly the Steel Core, because the Joes needed an army builder badly, and Grunt 2 helps with that. So he's not pictured here, but I wanted to shout him out for that. And I have two top honors, starting with the Cobra Eels. When Torpedo was brought into the line, I just knew the Eels were going to shortly come after, and they did right away. I love Torpedo, but I just like the Eels paint deco more. I guess because it's Cobra and I'm a Cobra guy, but this book is perfect. It's sleek and slender. It just articulates nicely and at the right places too. Great accessory selection too. Unfortunately, some warping on my harpoons, but the scuba gear is sick, especially those masks with the clear plastic to see through their eyes. These were hard to army build, being Amazon exclusives, but the new mainline retro re-releases will make it easier to army build. They look so cool all together when army built. Stay tuned for the winner of top honors in the middle of the countdown, and with that said, let's get ready to count down! Kicking things off at the number 10 spot, the Cobra Valkyries. I've always wanted them to do female Cobra officers, and I'm happy that they didn't waste any time doing that, being only their third year into the line. They did it as a 2-pack so that it's easier to army build, and with a different decal so they don't all look the same. You have the black and then the beige. Personally, I like the black more, but I don't mind the beige. I think it works here. I just would have preferred red to stick with the Cobra colors. I think that would have popped a bit more, matching the faction colors. The only downside here is the torso articulation. The double diaphragm needs work to get more range. Hasbro still continues to struggle with how to properly do joints that require double ball pegs. Other than that, they look so good, and you'll get a lot of variety displaying different heads and helmets. Lots of weapons and effects. It's how do you want an army of 2 packed in. I love increasing my Cobra ranks on display, and this just added more depth to it. Number 9, the Dreadnoks, Buzzer, and Ripper. I'm a huge Dreadnoks fan, and I can't wait to complete that faction, so the closer we get to it, I keep looking forward to it more and more. Imagine when they are completed, how awesome they'll look all together. That's why these two share the same spot, because they are a piece of that puzzle to complete. I don't usually do shared spots on my top 10, as I find them as a cheat, unless it's an exception of a team builder. That's just a rule I have for myself. But how can I not have these two together? The Dreadnoks are a major faction in the franchise, and they nailed these two figures. I'm very pleased with how all the Dreadnoks came out so far. They definitely stand out, and they need their own shelves once completed. Buzzer came out nice. He almost reminds me of vintage Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels with those round glasses, body hair, and even a similar tattoo. But all those body details are great, and they did a great job keeping his classic look with this modern take. It's pretty much faithful. Great accessories here that pay homage to the vintage one, from his chainsaw all the way to Ripper's signature Jaws of Life weapon. I just wish he had the backpack engine attached to it. Anyways, this dude looks hardcore. Love his expression. It's like I can hear his Aussie accent already. That face sculpt is fire. I like the camel tank, the chain on his belt. He's tatted up. The spiked forearm guard and armband. His brass knuckle dagger is sick. Even the knife on his handgun just tells a story that he likes to get all up in your face for vicious close quarters combat. That large bayonet is sick looking too. He just looks so badass. They have them heavily equipped. These Dreadnoks are rounding out to be something special as we get closer towards completion. At number 8, Agent Helix. I remember chasing down her first figure with my brother back around when the first live-action G.I. Joe movie came out in 2009. She wasn't in the Rise of Cobra movie, but was in the video game for her debut, and that figure was going for high prices on eBay as scalpers were taking advantage of a newly introduced character. I had a hard time getting my hands on that figure at that time in my local area, but once I got it, I enjoyed that figure, and I've been wanting her in this line. And now that she's here, she looks stunning. That entire upper body and arms are new. That's on top of the Scarlet legs. I love her weapons. The Mantis blades are articulated and look so damn sick. It's got cyberpunk badass vibes. I like all the accessories included with her. I love the character. I've always loved the look to this character with the white and black hair. Gray, yellow, and black combo. She has her own unique look. She's a badass in the comics too, which made me an even bigger fan of hers. I didn't expect to get her this soon in the line, so it was a pleasant surprise, and that's one of the reasons why she made my list. I love that they're tackling everyone in the lore, from older to newer characters. And Agent Helix was one of those newer characters that deserved a classified figure. Number 7, Tunnel Rat. One of my most wanted in the line, and a character's look that's based off one of the GOATs, Larry Hama. One thing that's cool about this figure is his unique shape and size. They sculpted him as the shortest G.I. Joe figure. I always like that about the Joe line, how when you look at them all together, there's a lot of variety in scale. He's got great details of paint, such as his tattoos, the war paint on his face, and they even gave him his own logo on his left sleeve with a little rat flashing a flashlight, which I thought was funny. Great selection of accessories, but the most nonsensical thing here was putting a scope on his M60. Now, I'm no gun expert, but I have enough common sense to know that shit is not practical. With how hard the kickback is to an M60, it'll blow his eye out all the way, creating a new eye socket to the back of his head. But I love the multi-lens night vision goggles. It gives me Splinter Cell vibes. Love that game. Good articulation, and everything else about this is everything I wanted in a Tunnel Rat figure. A standout in 2023. Number 6, Lowlight. One of my favorite Joes as a kid. Always loved his look, and I'm a sucker for snipers. I love snipers. That's always me when I play online games with my friends. They know I'm the sniper. Something about the art of patience and preying on your opponent is so satisfying, and that's what this figure's look displays. He's got that artistic patient killer appeal. The beanie on top of the visor just makes him look tough. The different shades of gray are nicely balanced with the light and darker color tones. The entire sculpt of this figure is solid, combined with great articulation to capture those sniping poses. I loved his Pursuit of Cobra figure, as that had a sniper rifle case that you can attach and detach the parts from, and they gave you the same exact thing here. I know Bobby Vallo worked on that Pursuit of Cobra line, so it was cool to see them implicate the same idea here, because I love that feature, and I wanted that same exact feature for Classified when I wished for a Lowlight to be in the line before he was ever revealed. And I'm glad they did it. It's just a lot of fun to put together and take apart, then put it back in the case. So satisfying. You can even connect his backpack to his case too. Plenty of good storage options here. I just need another one of my favorites now, his good friend Sci-Fi, and they're going to look really cool side by side together. And the winner to take top honors are the Snow Serpents. You would think by looking at these guys that it'll be a little bit clunky to handle, and while it can feel like that at times, depending how much you've geared them up, they surprisingly move really well. I'm a sucker for Arctic Troopers, and I enjoyed this year's Arctic Bats, but these have to be the best Arctic themed figures I've ever owned. And originally I was going to put Snow Job here, and since they share pretty much the same body, these guys just have more to display, mainly due to army building variety, so they just have more going on for them. They went ham on accessories here. The wolf gear is sick, and that's who I display as my alpha leader. It's my favorite look, being visually striking. Lots of weapons and snow gear, but that's to be expected from a deluxe, but all good choices here. The only downside is maybe a lack of storage for some weapons. Other than that, it's fun to pit these guys up against Snow Job or have them lined up with your Arctic Bats to increase your Arctic division amongst Cobra's ranks. Number 5, Tripwire. When I think of what a solo deluxe looks like, this is it right here. Tons of new accessories, nothing reused here really. You got interchangeable head parts and interchangeable vests, so you can always sport a different look. I love that he has his rat that can sense his minds. It's got a little harness to it too. That's pretty funny. He's got his armored remote robot with a remote control pad, minesweeper, neck guards, 2 mines, one which you can store onto his backpack. 15 accessories total. This is a bunch of goodies here. I was worried about the Minesweeper being gummy, but it's not. It's pretty sturdy. All the accessories here are great quality, and I love his sculpt, and I think we'll get a Grand Slam based off this sculpt. We don't have a Grand Slam yet, but we got a home run here with this Tripwire. Number 4, Range Vipers. I don't think you need me to tell you how badass these guys look. I knew these would end up on my top 10. It's one of the best Joe figures this year. This figure has a great look and bulk to it. Love the color combo we get here with the blues, grays, and blacks. It all complements each other very well. He just looks amazing from brain to toe. His head sculpt is money. That skull mask looks so badass as it gives me a cyberpunkish kind of vibe, and I'm a sucker for cyberpunk styles. He looks like he could be his own standalone villain, almost something out of a Metal Gear Solid boss kind of villain, you know? One of my favorite games ever. Point is, his design is so cool, you would think he would be a main villain rather than a pawn. But don't get it twisted, the Range Vipers are a fierce group that thrive living in the worst environments, surviving off of scraps, and kills anyone or anything that moves in their way. I like the backpack details and the tube connecting to the backpack of the mask. The vest is a nice material and doesn't hinder articulation. He can maneuver real well. Then a great selection of accessories that pay homage to his vintage figure like the Sai and the signature grenade launcher. I just can't get over how badass he looks. The tactical vest, the bullet bandolier, the backpack with a tube connected to that intimidating mask. It's just hardcore. I have to tell my Joe team that if you see these guys, run. Number 3, Scrap Iron. This is one I couldn't put down since I got it in my hands. One of my favorite Cobra members as a kid growing up in the 90s. His overall design is badass, and it has a similar look to one of my favorite comic characters in Judge Dredd. It's the helmet that gives me that vibe. Speaking of the helmet, they made it removable, and for the first time we have Scrap Iron's face revealed in the history of the G.I. Joe franchise. I dig it. I'm always down to add more for the lore. It gives it a new fresh take, seeing the identity of the man behind the mask, and has this disfigured face that's been burned. It looks sick though, rocking that Harvey Dent Two-Face look. The accessories are the highlight here, equipped with small accessories like his sidearm and the remote control pad, all the way to the big accessories like the missile drone that has missiles and missile projectile effects that attach to it. This definitely powers up Cobra's artillery on the shelf. The coolest thing to me is that not only the missile projectile effects plug into this, but can also plug into any figure you have that has a bazooka, and those rockets that come with them will also plug in. So, you know, snow serpents, Cobra infantry, and, well, bazooka. It just adds so much more play value. Then you get even more blast effects for the ground. I mean, this alone sells any kind of battleground scenery on display or photography. This was bound to be in my top 3. Number 2, Televipers with the Trouble Bubble. I love army building and I love vehicles, so when you give me both at the same time, then sign me up. I was all over this. First, let's talk about the Televipers. They are sporting their classic blue and purple colors. Paint deco is applied where it needed to be. Sculpt is up there too with decent articulation, and they have their blaster that attaches to their backpack through a tube. Then you get 3 heads that has 2 different skin tones and a fully masked one to add more variety. The Trouble Bubble came out beautifully crafted with great paint details on them inside and out from controls, panels, and elsewhere. Some functioning parts like the rotating blaster, which you can plug some muzzle effects from your guns. The bottom spoiler wing that shifts side to side, and the clear plastic bubble canopy that opens and closes. I do have a problem with the right tab as it doesn't seem to close all the way. But while I love the vehicle, the biggest problem is that it didn't include a flight stand, and it's just criminal that it didn't. Any aerial type vehicle needs that. So I had to improvise using some Hasbro pose stands. I'd like something more that's rotatable so I can dynamically pose them looking like they are in midair on my shelf. I still love this thing though, and it's one of their best visual army builders they've ever made in the line. I just want more of these. And coming in at the number 1 spot is the Cobra Hiss Tank. Words can't express how I feel about this one, but every time I hold it or glance at it, my inner child within me ignites pure enthusiasm. It is toyetic at its finest. Play features all around this thing, from the rolling tank treads that make this roaring sound on the surface that you roll it on, makes it feel alive. It makes it feel like a tank. Lights that display on the exterior and interior, especially inside the cockpit. Other functioning parts like the turrets, a trunk that slides a ramp down, adjustable seat, a weapons rack inside the trunk, interchangeable parts, and so much more. Then the potential add-ons that'll make this a rewarding ongoing investment is already paying off because it starts with the 788 Fireteam 3-pack, and man oh man, is this exciting to see. A nice expansion for my his team. These figures are great, and like I said, it will be the start to some add-ons as we have another one coming with the 788 Fireteam Techno Viper that will include the SMS, which is going to attach to the hitch in the back of the tank, adding more artillery for Cobra. There's potential for more add-ons too, as I pointed out in my review. They need blast effects for the turrets, as that's the one thing missing here. So we'll see, but these figures are a great start to that expansion. Speaking of figures, can't go without talking about the figures in this set. The Hiss Driver, Tactician, and Gunner are all great figures with nice paint decals and have their own respective accessories with them. Cobra Commander in his retro attire is the best figure in the wave. He's got great aesthetics, a great paint job, and the most accessories included out of all the figures in this set. The best Cobra Commander figure to date, and one of the best G.I. Joe figures this year overall. The best Cobra Commander figure to date, and one of the best G.I. Joe figures this year. Overall, this tank feels like a literal tank. They went all out on the details and some of the best plastic materials they've ever used to make this feel sturdy and durable. It's solid in and out with a heavy weight to it. Customizable options with stickers and interchangeable parts that adds more variety, which you don't have to make every tank look the same. Or if you're more of a classical guy, you got the classic parts here so you can recreate that vintage kind of look. The options seem endless on display. This is an incredibly immense piece, the centerpiece of my G.I. Joe collection, as well as now the pride of my G.I. Joe collection. This is going to be Toy of the Year for many collectors that grab this. It's not just a centerpiece, it's a masterpiece. Now I'm kicking it back to you. What was your favorite G.I. Joe figure of 2023? Who made your top 10 list? Which characters who haven't been revealed yet would you like to see in 2024? Comment below, let me know, we'll chat about it. Thanks for watching another top 10 video. Please follow me on Instagram if you haven't already at xman87. Hit the notification bell so you always know when my latest videos are up. Share and subscribe if you're new. See you on the next video. Peace.